Namaskar, everyone. Namaskar and welcome to day 11 of our Dhanurmasa Satsanga. Lakshmi Natha Samarambham Nathayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyutapadambuja Yugma Rugma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Deika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारी परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम् कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना. Yesterday's satsang, we had seen the wonderful Sita Kalyanam, where Rama and Sita are wedded to each other in the presence of all the elders, with the blessings of all the elders, the deities, and everyone was rejoicing. So once the wedding rituals are all completed, after Rama and Sita, then there is also the rituals which are performed for the wedding, the marriage of Lakshmana with Urmila, Bharata with Mandavi, and Shatrughna with Shrutakirti. Now, once all the rituals are completed and all that, then the next day, Vishwamitra Rishi takes leave of everybody here. He says, it's time for me to go back to my ashrama and to do my tapas to further that. So he takes leave and he leaves. Then, at the same time, Raja Dasharatha, along with his all his family members, now with his sons and daughters-in-law, he also takes leave from Janaka, and Janaka Raja gives lot of gifts to be sent along with the girls as they are going to their in-laws' place. So carrying all those, the big party starts moving back. They start their return journey to Ayodhya. As they are going, as their journey is going along, after some time, suddenly Dasharatha notices that there are some bad omens which start showing. There are some what we call as apashakunas which appear. So birds which normally sing very sweetly, they start screeching in a very harsh voice. Then all the animals which walk on the ground, they start walking in an anti-clockwise and in a very weird manner. So all these are considered as apashakunas. They are omens that signify that something bad is going to happen. So Dasharatha was very worried. And here the acharyas comment that why was Dasharatha worried? Because always we know that if somebody has something of value with them, then when they are walking through a dark forest or they are passing by some place, then they are worried that somebody will take it away from them. So now Dasharatha is returning to Ayodhya and he has all these great sons of his and those daughters-in-law. So Acharya say it's as if Dasharatha is having a bag full of ratnas, of gemstones and all precious gems. So he's worried now that something may happen. And he turns to Vasishta Rishi. Vasishta Rishi looks at all those omens and he reassures Dasharatha. He says, yes, definitely there are some bad omens which are appearing, but there are also certain other shakunas which show that whatever difficulty comes is going to soon pass away. So don't worry, O Raja, he advises him. Now, no sooner have they finished this conversation and they are gone a little ahead, suddenly they notice that there's a strong wind that starts to blow like a whirlwind. Then the brightness of the sun is completely covered by clouds and everything starts appearing dark and that heavy wind and dark. And it's as if some, bad thing has come upon them. And at that moment, they notice one very Tejasvi figure who comes marching towards them. And that is none other than Parshurama. This Parshurama, who is also called as Bhargava Rama, he is the very, should we say, famous or infamous son of Jamadagni Rishi, who is very well known because he had taken a vow that he would finish all living Kshatriyas, because he saw that at a particular time the Kshatriyas were getting onto evil ways, and they were creating a lot of trouble for people in society. So then, with that unbridled power, so then he had taken a vow, and in fact, it is said that he circumambulated the earth about 37 times, and he did samhara of all the evil Kshatriyas everywhere. So now, this uh, Parshurama, who is this great warrior, and he's called Parashurama because he is having this parashu, the axe, in his hand, and then see his form, and he appears to be in a rage. He's very angry, and he comes marching there, and he says, he throws down a challenge to Rama. Now, as soon as he comes there in that rage and starts talking, Dasharatha is very scared because he knows the background of this Parshurama. So he's very worried that, oh, something may happen to my children. And he falls down, and he begs this Parshurama. He says that, oh, Parshurama, you are such a great warrior, but you are actually a Brahmana. Please come out of this rage. Do not do anything to my sons. That is what is Dasharatha's primary worry, isn't it? That something may happen to his sons. So he begs him that, please don't do anything. What is it that you wish? We will take care of your needs. Like that, something he tries to tell. But Parshurama entirely ignores him. So this Dasharatha begging for mercy from Parshurama is the second instance of Sharanagati that we see in the Ramayana. We'll talk about that later. So anyway, this Parshurama ignores Dasharatha totally, and instead he marches and goes on to where Rama is standing. And he says, I heard that you have killed so many Rakshasas. I heard that you have broken that Shiva Dhanushya, which was with Janaka. But I want to see whether really, if you really have so much power, then I have this bow and arrow with me. This is the bow of Vishnu. This is the Vishnu Dhanushya. And let us see whether you are able to wield this bow, he says. And what is the reason why he's telling that? Parshurama is claiming. He said that actually, when Vishwakarma manufactured those two bows, one was given to Vishnu and one was given to Shiva. At one point of time, there was a question that who is mightier, Shiva or Vishnu? So then what had happened is that both of them had come face to face with each other to have a battle to decide. Now, so Shiva had his Dhanusha in his hand and Vishnu had his Dhanusha in his hand, and it is narrated that when the minute they came face to face with each other, Vishnu raised a sound saying huh, huh, like that. It's called as hunkara. So with his that garjane, that itself, what happened was that the bow in Shiva's hand became weak, and that weak bow is what was given to this Janaka Raja's ancestor. Right. So now Parshurama is saying that bow which came, that was Shiva's bow, that already had some weakness in it. So it's okay. Maybe that's why you were able to lift it. But let us see whether now this Vishnu's bow is the supremely powerful bow. So let us see if this Dhanusha of Vishnu you are able to handle. Now Rama agrees. He agrees to the challenge and he says, fine, I will do whatever it is that you are asking me. Very respectfully, he comes closer to Parshurama, and slowly he takes that bow from the hand of Parshurama. And seeing the ease with which Rama grips that bow, now Parshurama is convinced. And Rama then prepares the arrow. He positions it. And then he asks Parshurama, so as you told, I have held the bow now. And now I'm ready to shoot the arrow. Now you tell me, where should I aim? Towards what should I target this arrow in the bow? He asks. So, seeing this, Parshurama immediately understands that I was wrong in thinking that this Rama is just some mere Kshatriya. I was wrong in thinking that he could lift the Shiva Dhanush because it was already weak. And he realizes that somewhere there is some great power which is there in this Rama. And perhaps he realizes that, okay, the way Rama holds that bow and the tejas in his face, Parshurama starts seeing the form of Lord Vishnu himself in Rama. So now his Garva Bhanga has happened. He has been humbled totally. And now Parshurama says, you want a target for the arrow? Okay, fine. I can only give you one thing. all these years, whatever tapascharya I have done, that can be the target. So you can wipe out all that tapas of mine with this arrow. And Rama says, okay, let it be so. And with that arrow, the entire tapascharya that Parshurama had done in all these years is wiped out. And accepting defeat, what Parshurama does is he very silently bows down and with folded hands, he does pradakshina for Ramachandra and he says, I am going to retire now for further tapas. And he goes to this place called Mahendragiri, which is somewhere said to be in present day Kerala. So he goes there and he spends the rest of his time in that place doing tapascharya. Now we know that they tell there are 7 Chiranjeevis. So Parshurama is also one of them. So it is said that till today it is believed that he is there in that place near that Mahendragiri mountain, that is why Kerala is also often called as Parshurama Kshetra. So he is there and continuing to do his tapas there. Okay? So from this incident, there are certain things that we can try to understand. The first thing, you remember I said that when Dasharatha sees this raging form of Parshurama, he's scared and he surrenders to him and he begs to him, asking him to have mercy on all of them. And normally it is told that whenever somebody does Sharanagati, then that person to whom the surrender is offered should give in and it will fructify, it will work. Whatever this person begged for will be given. But in this case, Parshurama just ignores Dasharatha and there is no fructification, there is no outcome of that Sharanagati. Why is that so? So here the Acharyas explain that if Sharanagati has to be successful, there are 3 main factors which are involved. First, what is the quality of the person who is surrendering? That person who surrenders is called as the Sharanagatan or the Sharanagata. So what is his quality? Then, what is the quality of the person to whom the surrender is offered? That person to whom we offer the surrender is called as the Sharanya. And third factor is the Lord's discretion about whether to grant that or not. So, when we say quality of this person who does the surrender, there are 2 qualities which are important there. One is called as Akinchanyam and the other one is called as Ananyagatitvam. What is this Akinchanyam? Akinchanyam means I have nothing, not even a little bit of capacity to do anything on my own. I am utterly helpless. I am not able to do anything. Kinchit means little. Akinchanyam means I have absolutely not even a little bit, nothing at all in my hands. I am totally helpless. That is Akinchanyam. And what is Ananyagatitvam? I don't have any other refuge. I don't have any other place where I can seek help. So these 2 qualities, when they are there in a Sharanagata, then there is value for that Sharanagati. Now, if we look at Dasharatha, Dasharatha is the one who did Sharanagati now. Did he have these 2 qualities? Dasharatha is himself a very great king. He has many resources available to him and he has lot of power by himself. He is called Dasharatha because actually he was able to run, move his chariot in all the 10 directions. So such a great warrior, such a great personality. So he is not having Akinchanyam and he has other resources. Rama is there with him. So he is not at the level where he is helpless and he has nobody else to turn to. So because he is not fitting these qualities, therefore this Sharanagati did not bear fruit. The second factor, what is the quality of the Sharanya, the person to whom we surrender? Now, 2 qualities are required to be there in that one to whom we are surrendering. One is called as Paratvam. Paratvam means to be supreme, to be most powerful, to have complete control over everything in the universe. And the second quality is Saulabhyam, that is to be easily accessible, to have the quality of caring for the person who surrenders. So these 2 qualities, now let us examine. When Dasharatha did Sharanagati to Parshurama, did Parshurama have these qualities? Definitely no, because he was having some power, but he is not the person who is having supreme power over everything in the universe, isn't it? So he doesn't have Paratvam. And does he have Saulabhyam? Is he easily accessible? No, he is so full of rage and he has so much anger in his heart and he has come and challenged Rama now. So he is not having Saulabhyam. So if that Sharanya does not have these two qualities, then also Sharanagati will not fructify. And the third factor is Lord's discretion. Now, who is the Lord here? It is Rama. Now, if he does not will, it will not happen. So these three factors we saw how they contributed, and that is why Dasharatha Sharanagati did not yield any expected result. Now we may wonder that we are talking about Parshurama as one of the avatars. If you have heard of Dashavatara, you know Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Parshurama, Rama, Krishna, Balarama, and Kalki. These are what are told. Now, in some places, instead of Balarama, they say Buddha. Okay, whatever it may be. We know that Parshurama is appearing in that list of 10 avatars of Vishnu. So, if he was actually an avatar of Vishnu, then why didn't he have these qualities of Paratvam and Saulabhyam? Just like the Lord has, he should have also had those qualities. Why didn't he have it? Now, this is where Acharyas explain to us the concept of what is called as an Avesh Avatara. So, sometimes the Lord does not himself completely incarnate. Rather, he does avesha, he sends his energy into another Jivatma who is there on this bhumi. And that person gets powers, certain limited amount of powers which are required to do a particular work. And that power will last for a particular amount of time. Now, because this person is just a normal person who has got special power for some time, in them there will be a mix of the qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas. So they are not complete avatar of the Lord. They are just avesh avatara. Whereas there are certain other avatars where the Lord himself is completely there. And that is called as a Purna avatara. And there is no question of rajas and tamas. That kind of an avatara, the Lord has only pure sattva, shuddha sattva. That is the only quality which is there. So if you look at all the avatars of the Lord, say Narasimha or Varaha, Rama, Krishna, these are all considered as Purna avatars. But if you look at avatars like Parshurama, right, then it is called as an Avesh avatara. There are many more examples which are also given in the Bhagavatam. So there the Lord comes, I mean, he gives one particular Jivatma certain powers for a specific purpose for a fixed amount of time. So that is Avesh avatara. So now Parshurama was an Avesh avatara only. He was not a Purna avatara. And that is why when he came face to face with Rama, Dasharath Rama, who is the Purna avatara of the Lord, then there he had to admit defeat and he was subdued by that. Why was this Parshurama avatara was there? As I already mentioned, there were many evil Kshatriya kings who were creating havoc in society. So to rid the earth of all those evil kings, this Parshurama avatara had to be there. But now, once the time of Rama had come, those kings had all been destroyed. Now it was time for it was the Rakshasas who were creating havoc. And for getting rid of Rakshasas, Rama had taken avatara. So this is what we understand from this episode of Parshurama confronting Rama. Now, the entire retinue, all the people who have come from Mithila, they have returned back to Ayodhya. In whole Ayodhya, there is total joy and rejoicing. Everybody is very happy. The people come, they do aarti for these boys and their wives, for all the Rajkumaras and their wives. They welcome them. Then they are given, there's a big feast arranged. Everybody is having a very good time. And like that, slowly, they settle into their routine life in Ayodhya. Now, what had happened previously is at the time when Dasharath Raja was in Mithila itself, this Kaikeyi, we know Kaikeyi is one of the queens of Dasharatha. So, this Kaikeyi's brother called Yudhajit had come to take Bharata to their Kekeya Desha because his father, so Bharata's grandfather, maternal grandfather, wanted to have Bharata there and said, let him come and spend some time with us. So, actually that Yudhajit had come and he had come to Ayodhya and found that Dasharatha is not in Ayodhya. He has gone to Mithila for the wedding. So he had also gone to Mithila. And now once everybody comes back and they get settled in, Then again he requests Dasharath Raja and says, please send Bharata along with me. So Dasharatha gives permission. And that as Bharata gets ready to go, Vasishta has seen the nakshatra and which is the Shubha Muhurta for him to leave because that was the norm in those times. So once he does that, everything is made ready and all that. The Acharyas explain this in great detail because it conveys a very important point to us. This is the explanation given by the Acharyas based not on what exactly specifically Valmiki is saying there. The meaning is indirectly conveyed by Valmiki, and Acharyas have expounded on that more in detail. So, what happens is, as Bharata is getting ready to go and he boards the chariot, suddenly everybody notices that Shatrughna has also sat in the chariot with him. And then Vasishta Rishi is worried. He says, Shatrughna, you are also going along? So Shatrughna says, yeah, of course, I cannot live without Bharata. Wherever Bharata goes, I will go there. So Vasishta says, but I have not seen the appropriate muhurta for you to travel. I checked with the muhurta is okay for Bharata to travel. But if you are going, then we have to see whether for you also it is auspicious to travel at this time. At that moment, Shatrughna tells such a great thing that everybody is completely, um, they then realize what is the value of this Shatrughna. Shatrughna says, now, okay, Bharata is going. So you saw Muhurta for him. That is perfectly fine. Why do you need to see Muhurta for me? Did you check Muhurta for Bharata's luggage? Did you check Muhurta for the chariot which is taking Bharata? Did you check Muhurta for the horses which are driving this chariot? No, you didn't. Then why should you check for me? So, what is the bhava of Shatrughna? He feels that just like any other object which is the belonging of Bharata, he also is just an object who belongs to Bharata. That is the level of surrender that Shatrughna has. You remember we talked about this when we talked about how the names were given, and that is where Valmiki's prowess has come to the fore. So, what Valmiki writes here is गच्छता मातुलकुलं भरतेन तदा नघः शत्रुघ्नो नित्यशत्रुघ्नो नीतः प्रीति पुरस्कृतः. While Bharata was going to his maternal uncle's house, to his Matulakula, he has taken his brother Shatrughna. And this Shatrughna is addressed by the name as Anagha. So, what is this Anagha means? Somebody who has no sins, somebody who has no blemish, no flaw in their character. And how Bharata has taken him along with love, with a lot of preeti, he has taken him. So Shatrughna is called Anagha because he has such complete surrender to Bharata. We discussed before about this concept that how it is very easy to surrender to the Lord, but to surrender to another human being is very difficult. And because Shatrughna has achieved that level of, wiping out his ego, that level of surrender to Bharata, that is why Valmiki is referring to him as Anagha. Then another word which Valmiki uses here, he says that this Shatrughna is Nitah Priti Puraskrita. Nita means he's taken along. They are not saying Shatrughna went along with Bharata. When you say somebody goes along with somebody, that means that somebody is a person, right? But if you say, you will not say, I took along my auntie, I took along somebody. You will not say like that. That taking is for an object. But that was the level of surrender of Shatrughna, that he considered himself as just any other object which would be possessed by Bharata. Like Bharata will have a piece of luggage to carry his things. Like Bharata will be sitting in the chariot and the chariot will take him. Like that, I am one object whom Bharata is just taking along with him. So that was the level of surrender of Shatrughna. And that is why he is said to be Nitya Shatrughna. He has destroyed all these enemies of the ego which come in the way of our bhakti. So bhakti to the Lord is one level, but bhakti to the devotee of the Lord, that Bhagavata Bhakti, is what is shown by Shatrughna. So we've talked about these important aspects today. We talked about how Parshurama came and confronted Rama and he was subdued. How what is the concept of Avesha Avatara versus Purnavatara? What is this Dasharatha Sharanagati? Why it didn't work? We discussed all these things, and then we've seen how Bharata now has gone to Kekeya along with his maternal uncle, and Shatrughna has gone along with him, just like the shadow would follow the body. Shatrughna has gone along like Bharata's shadow. So we will stop here for today and we will continue in the next satsang tomorrow with many more interesting things to come. Let us offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Rama, Guru, for blessing us to have this opportunity to listen to all these things. And let us pray that their grace and blessings are always on us. Mangalam Kosalendraya, Mahaniya Gunabdaye, Chakravartitanoojaya, Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam, Veda Vedanta Vedyaya, Megha Shyamalamurtaye, Pumsam Mohana Rupaya, Punya Shlokaya Mangalam, Pitrabhaktaya Satatam, Bhratribhisa Sitaya, Nandita Lokaya, Ramabhadraya Mangalam, Srimate Raghuviraya, Setu Langita Sindhave, जितराक्षसराजाय रणधीराय मङ्गलम् मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. Thank you everybody and we'll meet again tomorrow. Namaskar.